some bit of a pressure for Divis.
Oh, well, yes. This is because of the, blockbuster heart failure drug Entresto, which Divis has been supplying the API to Novartis for. So MSN has been in a patent litigation with regards to this particular drug. And now MSN has won the patent litigation with regards to the Novartis blockbuster drug Entresto. So what this means is that MSN can probably launch will be launching the generic version of this drug in July itself. Now, how does it impact Divis? We have Entresto, the API, which is expected to be the largest product for Divis's custom synthesis business. It is estimated to contribute around 40% of the CS business and estimated to account around 20% of the overall revenue. IFL says over the next year, Divis could see a potential 12 to 13% decline in the annual EBITDA. But the reason why you've seen the stock recover, and this is, the reason is that there's so much back and forth with regards to Entresto that maybe the street had already factored the worst in, and now they're looking ahead because there are opportunities such as GLP-1 and other CDMO opportunities which are coming up, and I think the street wants to look at that more positively. But to talk more about that, we have Alankar Garude, who from Kotak Institutional Equities, to talk about Divis as well as a whole host of pharma stocks in focus on account of earnings. Alankar, thank you very much for taking the time out. Before we get to talking about what you estimate from earnings this quarter, wanted your thoughts on Divis and the news with regards to Entresto.
Hi, Ekta. Thank you for having me here. So basically in our numbers, we are already factoring in a generic entry, specifically MSN's entry in mid-July. If you look at the pediatric exclusivity, it's ending tomorrow, 15th of July. So to that extent, in our numbers versus almost 1,100-1,200 crores of sales of Entresto reported by Divis in FY25, we are expecting rather almost 850 crores in our numbers for FY26. The good thing, or rather the only solace, if you have to call it that way, for Divis regarding Entresto is, unlike most other CSM molecules, in our view, the gross margins which Divis enjoys for this molecule is much lower. In our view, Divis makes somewhere around 45 to 50% gross margins at best for this molecule. So to that extent, the earnings impact is something which will not be in sync with the strong top-line contribution which we saw from this product for Divis in FY25. So yes, there will be an impact, but at least in our numbers, we have already baked that in.
Okay. Alankar, good afternoon. This is Vinnii joining in the conversation as well. Let's talk about Q1, right? While you have baked in all these points coming in for Divis, what about overall Q1? What is expected to do well this time? One, do we expect CDMO players to perform better than other companies?
If you look at CDMO specifically, Q1 is a seasonally weaker quarter. I'm talking about the sequential performance here. Still, if you look at some of the trends which we have picked up, companies like Sai Life Sciences, Blue Jet, are going to report relatively good performance. Even Laurus, we expect a pretty strong custom synthesis performance in this quarter. Having said that, there are a couple of CRDMO companies like Syngene and Piramal, which have already guided for a relatively muted FY26. So to that extent, we also expect first quarter for them to be relatively muted. The impact for both these companies is going to be transient in our view in FY26. So we do expect the sales numbers to pick up towards the end of FY26. So once this transient inventory destocking issue for their largest molecule passes through. So net-net, I think Q1 is going to be good for a few companies on the CRDMO space. But if you look at a couple of companies in our coverage, the whole of FY26 is going to be a bit weak. And those would be Syngene and Piramal.
All right. Whole of FY26 will not be particularly good for the companies that you track, Alankar. But, the buzzword of the last couple of years has been semaglutide. With that going off patent, there are a lot of Indian pharmaceutical companies that stand to, perhaps partake in that opportunity. How big do you think the Indian opportunity realistically could be here, and who could be the winners here?
So, Mangalam, if I look at the diabetes market today in India is roughly around 20,000 crore. There are some 10 crore people in India who suffer from diabetes. And there could be people who are obese but do not suffer from diabetes. So that would be on top of this 10 crore people which I mentioned. if you look at, say, US, currently less than 10% of the people who are diabetic really take GLP-1 drugs. That number is expected to increase once you see more generics entering the market, even in US, and not just in US, even in other markets as well. We could see something similar happening in India as well. So depending on how things pan out, the size of the GLP-1 market in India can run into a few thousand crores. I mean, can be closer to that 20,000 crore mark of the diabetes market currently in India, or even could be higher. Also in India, one interesting angle to consider here would be the combination between oral and injectable. Because of affordability, because of storage requirements, because of ease of administration, we might as well see a fairly decent penetration of the oral combination in India compared to the injectable. So, I mean, clearly an interesting opportunity. If you look at who are the key players in the diabetes market in India today, a whole bunch of all the larger players which we cover today have a big play on diabetes today. So players like Sun Pharma, Torrent, Cipla, Dr. Reddy's to an extent. So these are all relevant companies who have a very strong diabetes presence in India. And we expect some of these companies to be winners eventually when it comes to the GLP-1 opportunity, both on the diabetes side as well as on the obesity side.
Okay. Alankar, just wanted to understand if you had a look at Sun Pharma's Halol facility observations and what you made of them, as well as maybe the news that Glenmark has also received a warning letter for their Indore facility. So separately, just wanted your thoughts on the specific observations for Halol. What do you think of them? And two, the fact that a lot of these companies are now not reacting to observations or warning letters in an extreme fashion as compared to earlier.
I think that last point which you made is pretty interesting, right? So, I mean, if I talk about Sun specifically, Halol is not as relevant in their entire scheme of things as it used to be, say, 10 years back. Having said that, of course, it's one of Sun's largest facilities. It's very important to get it cleared. But if you look at the number of new launches lined up from that facility are not really very high. We don't have the details of the observations as yet, so I would reserve my comments on that. Also on Glenmark, they had already received an OAI in May. So to that extent, receiving a warning letter is more of a procedural thing. Glenmark is also one name which we don't have under our formal coverage at the moment. So would refrain from giving any views on that.
All right, take that point. Thank you so much for joining in. Glenmark, the stocks continuing to do well after a big rally that it saw on Friday as well. But mind you, it is an F&O ban, so we'll keep an eye out on that. Alankar, thank you for joining in. We'll take a short break, come back on the other side, get you more on the markets and a lot of stock-specific action. Stay with us.